Welcome back, everyone, and hello if you're new here. Thanks for joining us. This is the front of FDR's car. That's the Supreme Judicial Court. Coming up here is President Woodrow Wilson. He's the one who showed the movie Birth of a Nation, which is about the KKK taking over America, burning it to the ground, and rebuilding it in the light of the Democrat Party, because that's who the Democrats were. In fact, they would hold their rallies, KKK, and then they would march into the Democrat convention. Here is FDR. FDR is an interesting one. Both Woodrow Wilson and FDR wanted to pack the Supreme Court, just like the Democrats want to do now. As I keep trying to tell you, there's nothing changed with the Democrats, nothing new. And he appointed the first open member of the KKK, Hugo Black, there he is on the cover of Time, to the Supreme Court. So if he packed that court, that's him as a young man, he would have packed it with members of the KKK. There he is as an older man. The KKK has infiltrate. Well, the whole Democratic Party is the KKK. Well, anyway, also, here's an interesting bit. There's Ginsburg after she had her stroke. Yes, she had a stroke. Well, it was FDR who approached the Democrat Party and said he wanted them to sign the New Deal, basically to get voters, because what they did then. How did they do it, you ask? Well, guess what? You'll never guess. By extending the Depression for years, people committed suicide because everything was closed, their businesses were destroyed, their lives were destroyed. Exact same thing that's happening now. He wanted to sign the New Deal to expand government and get everybody to come over to the Democrat Party. Well, he had to make a concession. The Democrats didn't want lynching to be illegal in the South. They wanted to lynch all former slaves, descendants of slaves, Southern Italians, and white Republicans, as long as you were against the Democrat Party. And here's our little imbecilita, the radical, which Schumer has. The Democrat Party is using her to gather up the young vote. And she's telling them to radicalize and to keep rioting in the street. She is Evita Peron and Che Guevara crammed into one person. We've got to get her out of office. Here is FDR riding in his famous convertible. There he's smiling. And it's a fame thing. He's riding in a convertible, and you see he's holding his hat up. There's the convertible in the museum. It's great looking. But if you can see, there he is holding his hat, and wait till you see what's coming up now. Oh, there he is again. That's the famous picture of him waving to the crowd. It's a beautiful car, isn't it? Guess who you see now? Look, that's Obama, dressed as FDR, the guy who appointed the first open member of the KKK to the Supreme Court and wanted to pack the Supreme Court with the KKK members and started socialism in this country and allowed lynching to continue in the South as long as they signed the New Deal. Okay, so the voting by mail restrictions are loosening. Apparently a lot of officials, registers of voters, are resigning because they no longer have to match the signature on the ballot with the signature on the voter registration card. And they've also extended up to 2 weeks when the ballots can trickle in. They've also said the ballots don't even have to be postmarked. First, they said they had to be postmarked. And also, you don't have to mail it yourself. You can give it to a third party to mail that vote for you. So that legalizes ballot harvesting. What they do is they go to old age homes and any place where, or centers where the elderly congregate. They fill out the ballots, and a lot of people help them fill out the ballots. There's a little, I know you can't trust all these people that help these elderly people fill out ballots. A lot of these elderly people probably shouldn't be voting anymore, but they usually vote Trump, they usually vote Republican. So they harvest all the ballots, take them all in, they're supposed to sign the back of the ballot, but now signatures don't even matter. So ballot harvesting, what they do is they take the ballots, they take the envelopes, they steam them open, they take out the ballot. If it is for the Republicans, they throw it out, and then they just make up a new one and they stick it in. But now, since signatures don't matter anymore, they can just create a bunch of fake ballots. So this might take 2 weeks, a month, whatever, as long as these ballots trickle in without a postmark. Trump wins in a landslide, as they've told us that he would do on election night. But a month later, Biden will win. Why? Same thing as they did in California. When I lived in California, same thing they did. They just create the votes. Barack Obama, part of the problem is the Democrats, of course, are allowing lawlessness. You can't go to your grandmother's funeral. You can't hold her hand when she dies. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg had her entire family there for weeks while she was dying. Just like McCain, even though they didn't see eye to eye, and McCain was responsible for the dossier being brought to the State Department. She will be getting a full state funeral with all the trimmings, so to speak. Though we couldn't be with our dying relatives, go to the funeral, have weddings, meet new people, get married ourselves. We were on lockdown while they allowed rioters and lawlessness to rampage the streets and burn the country down. So we're going to have her brand new Green Deal to build it back up again. Do we have $100 trillion? I don't know. Remember, Biden's going to raise our taxes $4 trillion, which it doesn't just raise our taxes, it raises the price of everything, because the taxes are passed off onto the consumer. So a lot of people will lose their homes, jobs, businesses will close, things will cost far more than they should at that kind of tax rate. And plus we'll be paying for medical insurance for everyone who comes over the border, and bump up all the sex trafficking and drugs coming into the country. And also MS-13, but that's lawlessness. That's the Democrat Party. That's what the KKK did. That's who they are, except now they're Antifa and BLM, which is a Marxist organization. And interesting, BLM removed their manifesto from their website, stating that they're a Marxist organization. It really isn't about race. Now, the reason why all these judges all across the country are signing off on this is because Obama appointed over 400 judges while he was in office. So this is the reason why lawlessness is going from the courts all the way down. And as I've said many times before, witnessing Antifa and BLM, the Women's March, craziness of the left, we will beg soon for martial law. We will beg for it. And we are. At this moment, we have no choice. People coming over the border, no martial law. So that's how important continuing with this, the conclusion, this decision on with the show, and that we have conservative-leaning justices that want to interpret the Constitution and Bill of Rights as written. They want to reinterpret and recreate it and expand government and take the power away from the people. The law of abortion actually takes the power away from the child. But the law itself gives the power to the child. But they reinterpreted it. It's exactly like what's happening today. No, you can't have a party, but we can. The governors and whatever, mayors can not wear masks. Cuomo, de Blasio, they were all caught without masks. But we can have the rioters in the streets, and they can burn down and loot under the banner of Black Lives Matter. Black-owned businesses owned by minorities, they can do whatever they want. And Antifa was already wearing masks. They always had those black masks, and they looked like ISIS. And it's interesting, COVID, they're making us wear masks. So all of us wear masks. They wear masks. We can't identify who they are. I think it's not a coincidence. I really don't. But they've reinterpreted the law. The governors have. It's not even the Supreme Court. It's the governors and the mayors have reinterpreted the law. The Democrats, the entire Democrat Party. We know that Hollywood is giving money for their bail. Soros has backed district attorneys all over the country. He did this several years ago to get people in there that would bring on Marxism. That's why the McCloskeys, they were charged for resisting the rioters that broke in through the Iron Gate, said that they were going to burn down their house and kill them and their dog. They were resisting the rioters. And the gun that the wife was holding wasn't even a gun, it was a prop they used in a trial. So the district attorney that was put in there by Soros said, make it into a real gun so the charges can be higher. You can't resist. You can't resist the people who are coming to kill you. And these are the same Democrats who want to take our gun rights away. Democrats have always wanted to take the gun rights away. Started back in Jim Crow South, when they went out at night, dressed in hoods, the Democrat Party, and instilled the Jim Crow laws. And they ran the plantations like communism. The whole thing is like communism. The whole idea of communism. That kind of authoritarian rule. And gangs, terrorist arms, going out in the streets, going out at night, lynching anyone who was against the Democrat Party, against the Nazi Party, against the communists. Lynching 1/3 of nearly 5,000 lynched. 1/3 were white Republicans. Nobody hears about that. They did not want anyone to be able to defend themselves. Should they come to kill you, they don't want you to defend yourself. They didn't want the freed slaves to have guns to defend themselves so they wouldn't be lynched. And it was okay to do this. It wasn't against the law. They left the bodies hanging on the trees. And it was FDR who wanted his New Deal pushed, who put the first open member of the KKK on the Supreme Court. He was a Democrat. See how important this whole thing is. He let the Depression go on too long, and people became disillusioned with capitalism, and they embraced the state because the state started handing out free stuff, Social Security, the New Deal, the government gave you jobs. So people who were Republicans, they freed slaves, descendants of slaves who were Republicans because Those were the people who abolished slavery and fought against the South in the Civil War. They moved over to the Democrat Party because they were so desperate. People were committing suicide during the Depression. He just let it go on forever, and he could have stopped it. He wanted the New Deal signed, and the Democrats wouldn't sign it unless he promised to make lynching or to keep lynching of anybody they wanted to lynch legal in the South. So the New Deal was signed in blood. Woodrow Wilson I would say he was a member of the KKK. He's the one who played the movie Birth of a Nation, which was about the KKK, the Democrat Party, fundamentally transforming the nation, birthing it into the Democrat Party, one-party rule. That's what that movie was about. That's what they're doing now. If they come at night to kill you, if the rioters come to kill you, if those police in Compton, Pennsylvania, that knife-wielding maniac who killed 4 people, the law is if you are within 10 feet, they're within 10 feet of you and they have a knife, they can kill you. They're close enough to kill you. A lot of people, criminals, will wield a knife and do that because it's called suicide by cop. Because they can't do it themselves, and it's called suicide by cop. But the cops, the riots broke out. No, you can't. You have to let the knife-wielding maniac who's killed other people, you have to let them kill you. That's exactly the same law that Jim Crow, the KKK, which is the terrorist arm of the Democrat Party. That's the rules that they live by, and that's the rules that FDR allowed. FDR, it's interesting, it's the Time cover when Obama was elected. The cover of Time was Obama sitting in a convertible back seat, dressed like FDR. He was the new FDR. Isn't that interesting, don't you think? This whole thing is exactly, there's no difference. There's no difference. They're implementing the same rules. Eugenics started in America. Sterilization of unwanted people, the unwanted population. They used to sterilize people in this country if they thought mentally you were not right. They decided and they sterilized. I used to work for an elderly woman who was sterilized because she was a little crazy. For any reason whatsoever. Eugenics started here. Hitler didn't start eugenics. All this stuff is pointing towards the Democrat Party. And this is the party, just like the KKK, went out at night and burned down barns and houses, not just crosses. They destroyed property, they stole whatever they wanted to, and they lynched whoever they wanted to. And you could not resist them. And from that time, the Democrat Party never, ever, ever wanted the population to have guns to protect their lives, especially the slaves. If they wanted to terrorize them, they wanted to leave that body hanging on the tree, to terrorize to keep everyone in fear. The white Republicans who were working down there to keep keep the people free, to try to bring equality, and to be in opposition of the Democrat Party, to put fear into everyone. And the 1/3 of those bodies were white bodies, white Republicans hanging from the trees. So this is your history of the Supreme Court and the evils of the Democrat Party, and that there is no difference. Human trafficking, sex slavery coming over the border, drugs, people, the suicide rate has skyrocketed because of this COVID thing. Fentanyl is coming from China, the place that sent us COVID, and it's killing us here. Methamphetamines. Fentanyl, methamphetamines. That's what George Floyd died of. That's what he died of. And also, they say, and a permanent underclass. They say the people who are coming over the border, slave labor, but they're going to offer them free health care. I say they're trying, it's one party rule, birth of a nation. And what's happening is they're killing off the elderly people, putting people, young COVID patients, into nursing homes. Killing them off. People who know that communism is bad, who would vote for Trump. They say the ballots in New Jersey, they go and they harvest the ballots in from the nursing homes. And most of them vote Republican, and most of them voted for Trump. Except when they ballot harvest, the Democrats, they go there, they take the ballot out of the envelope. The outside of the envelope is signed. That's how you verify it. This is absentee ballots, not this mail-in thing. It's just crazy. And then they fill out a new ballot and they put it in. And they throw away the Republican. So this is the population that you've killed off. This is the population that's the most susceptible to COVID. And that's where these Democrat governors have put the young COVID patients in there to kill them off. And there was no demonstrations when that young gentleman was beating up that elderly man who had dementia. That white elderly man. No demonstrations, no riots, nothing. Whitmer did nothing. Basically, they have blood on their hands. This is the Democrat Party. And you're killing off the highest suicide rate is white males, then white females, and of course Native Americans. They're replacing the population. People coming over the border accept socialism. They're used to an authoritarian type of government. So they will accept socialism. And they also get paid under the table. It's not that you've got really a slave class. Well, in a way, because you are paying them over the table. They're on the dole. They put them into housing immediately. That's why the wait for a Section 8 housing, if you're an American, is over 10 years. I've been waiting 4. Now it's over 10 years that I have to wait. I'll be dead. I'll be dead. Something doesn't happen, I'll be dead. They're changing over the population, and these people will accept the new socialism. And we will commit suicide because we can't afford, our taxes will go so high, we can't afford health care for ourselves, let alone everybody who comes over the border. But they're replacing the population with another population that will accept the rule, I should say, the Jim Crow rule, the KKK rule, which is our Democrat Party, which turns out to be funding these Marxist parties under Act Blue. It's very, very interesting. So, this is how important the Supreme Court is. This is how important your vote and your eyes at all these polls. Go work at the polls. If the votes need to be counted, these ballots, be a counter. Do everything you possibly can. We're on the precipice of losing America. And I've said this more than once. And that's why I started this channel. I said in my first videos that we're having civil war in the streets. They want us there at the top to kill each other off. So their hands will be clean. They don't have to waste the bullets. They'll throw gasoline on the hill of dead bodies in the middle of the town and light it. And then take a like a bulldozer and push the ashes over a cliff. And then the population has decreased and People who wanted to decrease the world's population and wanted the natural resources. And they just want so many people to do the jobs that they don't want to do. Because there are lots of work to do to take care of wealthy people, to keep things going. I was right. And now people are saying civil war in the streets. But nobody listened. Because I think I looked like a silly young girl. Didn't know what she was talking about. That must have been it. Anyway, like, subscribe. Please share this video. Please. And pray. Pray every single day. Keep God. If you can't go to church, you talk to God every day. Spend good time with the Lord. And trust in the protection of a higher power. Good night, and God bless you.
When I walk through, the clouds dissolve, the sky turns blue.